Hiya folks, Carl James here from Electric Media Madness. Joining me for another insightful, I have a very special guest with me today, Mark Conlon. How you doing, mate?
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me on, Carl.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
If people aren't sure about Mark's research, please go and check out his stuff. His main place is Mark Conlon blogspot.com, is that right?
Yeah, that's a mouthful, yeah.
Yeah. You've also got a YouTube channel of the same name, and you've also got Enlightened Times Podcast.
That's correct, Carl, yeah.
YouTube, and I think you've got up on
I've got it on
a couple of other places,
well.
BitChute as well. Have you got Odyssey as well?
Yeah, there's an Odyssey, but mainly a lot of my stuff's on the Enlightened Times podcast. There's stuff on BitChute, stuff we sometimes can't talk about.
Yeah,
and I've got the Mark Conlon blogspot. That's a BitChute channel as well, which has got far more than the YouTube stuff.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. So I encourage people to go and check it all out. Mark is a really good, really thorough researcher of 9/11 and various other subjects as well, but principally it's that. And it complements people like Dr. Judy Wood and Andrew Johnson very, very well. It all fits nicely together. It's some really good stuff there. Please check it out if you can. And so you and I can't remember how long ago it was that we first crossed paths. It might have been way back in the
it was a long time ago.
2012, 13, something around about there. Just crossed paths at various talks that you and I were going to, other people's, and you came to a few of mine as well, and that, and
I've been to quite a few of yours, Carl.
Yeah. Oh, bless you, mate. Yeah.
And through Andrew Johnson as well, we sort of met as well, didn't we? So
yeah. I think one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on, because obviously alternative knowledge researcher like myself, and you do have an interest in science fiction as well, like I do.
Yeah.
So which is I do. Always helpful with these subjects. But it's kind of like tying it all together. We talked about doing this one for a while and things got in the way. Yeah. And then we've got round to doing it today. We're going to talk about the miniseries V from 1983. And this one is a fascinating one. I call it a cautionary tale to history. People can learn a lot from it, despite the dodgy special effects in it. But did you watch this the first time around, or is this something I might be giving your age away? I don't know.
Yeah. I did watch it, and something we'll come on to later on is how things seem a little bit different to when I watched it the first time round.
Right. Yeah.
I think it was 1985. I think
it was 85. It was broadcast in the UK. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I seem to remember it being around about that point in time. Yeah. It's a great show. I mean, like I say, the special effects haven't aged too well. The acting's a little bit hammy, but in terms of story, especially the first one. God.
Yeah,
really does it. So I don't know if you want to tell our viewers, listeners, just like in case they've never watched it before, just a general gist of what V is all about, just a general premise of the story.
Yeah, well, it's about some visitors from outer space who turn up in a fleet of UFOs, spacecrafts, over various cities around the world, and they sort of go onto the stage in New York. I think it was United Nations building, which Carl reminded me of, and they announced their arrival. And they come in the guise that they are friendly.
Yes.
And they need our help. They need human help too. And they sort of going to exchange a bit of help with technology back to us to help us with things. But it sort of declines into a little bit of out and out fascism and authoritarianism
pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah. And then which a lot of people buy, that they're friends and they want to help them, but there's a section or a few people who become resistant and see what's going on, that all is not what it seems, with why they've come here and for the reasons that they've announced.
Which is a good reason why it's worth talking about it. That amongst other things.
It is. And so you get this resistance, and they build and they're trying to fight back against this and expose what's going on. There's a lot of propaganda from the visitors as they
take over the media, don't they?
Yeah. And so you got this battle going on for freedom, really.
Yeah.
From fascism. and it descends into martial law. There's an enemy which they propagate, which is the scientists.
Yes.
Our scientists,
Yeah.
section of scientists. Yeah. So it's an alien invasion to some degree. And they promise that they're going to help us with secret technologies and cures and things like that.
Yeah.
So it just descends into this battle for freedom and to expose what's going on.
Yeah.
I remember you can into the procreation of an alien baby during
there
this
is that
well,
aspect as well. Yeah.
So it's just such an interesting storyline. And the way it's done, I think it's brilliant, really.
Yeah. It's interesting because it kind of like touches on a lot of things that come up in our research. Some people believe in them, some people don't. There's some things, which we might get into. I don't know about the reptilian aspect of it as well.
Yes.
So I'm kind of, as I said to you, I'm kind of on the fence with that one, but but nevertheless fascinated by it all. It's something that's been knocking around for years, hasn't it? Daniken and obviously David Icke took that one out around the world for a long time as well, didn't he?
He did. I'm like you. I'm sort of on the fence with that sort of stuff, but I can understand that in a concept as well. Because of the lack of empathy or the way they behave is a little bit. I'm talking more in the David Icke realms of the people he talks about. And shape shifting and things like that.
That it literally is that thing of sometimes where you say, "Oh, that person's so cold-blooded, they're cold-hearted, aren't they?" It's that kind of thing with the reptilian with this, isn't it? Yeah.
So it is.
Whether it's a metaphor, Ken Johnson, who created V, he was putting some bloody good stuff out there. He really was. He
was. Yeah.
So what did he do again? Yeah, he was. What was he involved with before that? Was it the $6 million man?
$6 million man, Bionic Woman, and the Incredible Hulk.
Incredible Hulk,
which I watched as a kid. All them. I watched all of them.
I mean, it's a story that's. I suppose you could really argue that, because certainly he said it was a metaphor for things that had been going on during the Second World War. That's pretty blatant in the story, especially with like the Holocaust narrative and the character of Abraham, the granddad of the family, who's he's seen it happen before. He's starting to see it happen again. So we'll get into that, and the brown shirts as well, the visitors group in it and all that. The first thing was that I noticed that was interesting was, and this kind of ties in with my War of the Worlds research, which which I've done an interview with you recently where we talked about that. Is this idea of people getting the message via the media, and that was, I thought, was really fascinating at the beginning. How they're all huddled around the television watching, aren't they? And that chap Elias who breaks into that house to do a bit of thieving, and he gets the radios working, he puts the telly on, and then he's just sat there watching the telly in the house. So, what did you think of that? Yeah, because I thought that was interesting.
I think that it's like you say, it does tie into your War of the Worlds, isn't it? Through the media and how they sort of introduce that. Well, they're giving us that concept, aren't they? That they're tuning into that, and then obviously this is where it begins with this.
So it's all filtered down through the media, isn't it? Through the
yes, and that I mean, just to say, after what we went through, after watching that again, it's like it becomes more real that that something like that happening.
And how people react as well. That was something else I picked up on. Like some people are in awe, some people are frightened, some people are curious. And that kind of plays out with where people sort of put their allegiances, don't they?
Yes.
As it goes on. You get some people who collaborate with them, some people who fight against them.
Yeah.
And that kind of, again, where you were touching on, obviously we have to be careful what we say, but 2020, people being forced into their little camps, pitted against each other.
Yeah, the divide and conquer, isn't it? I guess it's sort of like you say, who are you with? You with them or are you with us? Type of thing. Choose your side.
Yeah. And it's interesting because you see it with some of the visitor characters as well, don't you? Because you have this, the one guy who's Willie, Robert Englund, who played Freddy Krueger.
Yes, yeah. And he was quite a likable character.
He was, wasn't he?
Yeah. I don't know what it was, Carl, but he had. I don't know if it was his face, but I don't know. He was quite a character to felt sorry for him, really.
Yeah, you do, don't you? Yeah, you do. Because he kind of makes out that he does admit in it that he knows what they're there for.
Yeah.
But you kind of get the feeling that I don't know so much if it's whether he agrees with it or not, or it's just that the more he's been around humans, and especially like the Harmony character that treats him nice and that, you know, that he starts to see maybe from being around us that he's thinking maybe this isn't such a good idea, you know.
So it sort of grows into that, doesn't he? I suppose seeing that and building that relationship.
Yeah. But we do know there's a resistance amongst the visitors as well, isn't there? There's a fifth column group or something like that they call themselves.
Yeah, and I think one of them was giving, if I'm correct me if I might be wrong, was helping Donovan or
that's right. Yeah, I
going
can't
for
remember his
information
name.
being
Martin.
Martin,
that was his name. Yeah, he was one of the good guys. Yeah.
So that's interesting that you've got that. So whether they call them not whistleblowers, but feeding information, to our cause, if you know.
That's right.
Look at it like that.
Yeah. So going back to the character of Abraham, they're talking about what their intentions might be, and I picked up on a line of dialogue where he says, "If they are hostile, I'm not sure where we would find a hiding place."
I think it brought a lot back for him, didn't it? If I remember correctly with that, and his suspicions or what he knew, of what they were here for.
Yeah.
Not good intentions.
Yeah.
He could actually see through it, couldn't he?
Yeah.
And he was trying to, because they actually took people in, didn't they?
That's right.
Some scientists
and help them out.
And help them out.
He told the story, didn't he, about how did they smuggle? Was it he was smuggled out, or his child was smuggled out, or something? Yeah. Oh, that's it. Yeah, it was the son was smuggled out, wasn't he, from the camps?
That's it. Yeah.
And he said, if somebody had have helped us, maybe things would have turned out differently, and that's makes him want to help out. Yeah.
It's quite a profound moment in that. In that.
So they mention about how they're coming in peace, and he's obviously looking very skeptical, isn't he? He's like, "Are they really?"
Yeah. He's not buying it, is he?
No. And you hear all the different back and forwards. You get like Juliet, the character, and her boyfriend at the time. He says, talk about an offer we can't refuse, when they're saying we'll pick up all your science and give you all these cures and da-da. And she says, I wonder what would happen if we didn't. And she's I think she's a junior doctor, is she, or something like that, training to be a doctor? That
I think
and
so. Yes.
It's the people, it's the anthropologists and the scientists, the doctors, and they're the ones that are, and they start disappearing, don't they? I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, because
the scientists become the enemy, don't they? For them, they put out a lot of propaganda about about them, and they're obviously being smuggled places, aren't they? Some of them, that family, if I remember correctly.
You start to see the things that's going on in the news about the compromise, and that was what I was picking up on was interesting with the attitude towards the scientists.
Yes.
So I'll just read out that little bit from the dialogue quickly first, and then we can discuss it. So the person on the news at the time says, "The world was shocked today when Nobel Prize winner Dr. Maurice Jankowski of the Brussels Biomedical Institute in Belgium held a press conference to reveal the existence of an international conspiracy against the visitors." And then that doctor comes on and he says, "It came to my attention first when Dr. Rudolph Metz in California came to me. Other colleagues here have also been approached by scientists, primarily medical and anthropological scientists from many nations who are part of the conspiracy. Their plans, quite simply, are to seize control of several motherships belonging to the visitors. They tried hard to convince me that it was to protect the human race or to keep such powers from the military." That was an interesting thought. I thought that was... I do believe, however, that their motivation is far more personal. And then they talk about how he says, like the international scope, a score of medical scientists come forward to admit they have been approached or actually confess that they were part of the conspiracy. And then you start to see doctors being framed, don't you?
Yeah.
Doctors disappearing.
Yes.
And I can't remember who it was. One of the characters said, maybe it's because they know that we're the doctors and the anthropologists. They're the ones that are going to figure out what potential vulnerabilities, how we can stop them, and that kind of thing.
Yes.
And also find out what their real agenda is.
Yeah.
And again, obviously we have to be careful what we say on YouTube, but it was the thing that happened in 2020. Obviously, medical professionals, they were the ones who were ostracized for questioning the official narrative. And they talked about conspiracy theories amongst doctors and scientists and all that kind of thing, and anti-somethings and things like that. You know what I mean? And I just kept thinking about that in my head when I was watching it, when I was making my notes. So I don't know what you thought about that, because
exactly that, Carl, because it's almost like they created a consensus, didn't they? Of this is the science, this is it. If you question it, you're a conspiracy theorist type of thing. So like you say, ostracizing, which is exactly what's in V. And they were circulating that propaganda, wasn't they? It's exactly the same as 2020 in a way, because like you say, it's the scientists were, anybody outside of that consensus was
they were the people
labelled,
you know, in
dangerous.
2020, let's face it, they were the people who were going to sway consensus. They were the people who were going to make people question things and think a bit differently, from rather than just being spoon-fed what was going on by the media, you know. And this is exactly what happens in V. You've got the official narrative being sped by the media, and then you've got the scientists who can potentially debunk that.
Yes.
So,
well, in a way, which I think is very similar to 2020, is how they had their journalists in place who were going to push that type of stuff. How can we put it? You know, the propaganda. And it's the same in V, isn't it? They had their trusted journalist who was their go-to person, who
Christine
their
Walsh,
face of and I think that's a real key thing, isn't it? You know, 2020 and V, you know.
I mean, you could probably argue that there's probably many things that have happened throughout history where it's been a similar case. You know, but I think because it's so fresh, because it happened so recently, that was why it really stuck out like a sore thumb for me. And I thought, you know, these things.
It was almost like quite a close call to home. I think that with the martial law. It was a very close call to what we encountered. You know, here, you know, witnessed.
And again, I picked up on this one. I think this was a little bit after that in the miniseries. The news saying it's still too early to determine how many scientists may be involved. The UN has agreed to visitor request that all scientists and their families must register their whereabouts with authorities. Computers will be used to verify their registration. Where did we hear that recently?
Oh God,
about digital IDs and that.
Yes, and
passports and whatnot.
Track and trace.
It's another one of those things, isn't it? Yeah. And because, as I was saying to you, it's not just this. It's obviously things that, because obviously Ken Johnson based a lot of this on stuff in World War II and all that. Because Abraham, the granddad, he says, I think it was his son who says to him, "Oh, it's going to pass," and he said, "That's what I said in 1938 back in Berlin." You know,
which is similar to what we were. I don't want to keep harping on about 2020 too much, but
no.
It's similar, isn't it? It's like, you know, it'll go. We'll just get this, and got dragged on, didn't it? You know, quite a lot.
Another thing I picked up on as well, and this could be an interesting discussion. Again, I don't know how much of it we could say on YouTube, but they talk about revolutionary new cancer treatments that do exist and have existed for some time, along with many other breakthroughs which apparently our scientists have kept quiet about. And when they're asking him about it, and he says, well, there's a lot of money to be made in research grants.
Yes, well, again, it's a reality, isn't it? Of the science, call it the science industry, or with their funding, isn't it? It's who's funding them. And
you and I have looked into a lot of that, haven't we, over the years here and there? This idea of suppressed treatments and I mean, one of the ones that I always remember was that Raymond Rife? Royal Raymond Rife?
Yes. He's, along with some others, wasn't there? Who
Yeah, there's
got
loads.
these
Yeah.
treatments and
Yeah.
to reversal of diseases and things like that.
That's right.
So it's
I mean, in this case, they're saying, because they're trying to badmouth the scientists, aren't they?
yes,
And they're trying to say, oh, the scientists, look how bad they are. They kept all of these cures for things from you.
yes, yeah.
It's like it's a reversal, isn't it? In this, they're actually trying to blacklist the scientists to ostracize them, get them out of the way, kind of thing.
Yeah, they're trying to call into question the trust, isn't it? Of
That's
don't
right.
trust it, whereas we had the opposite, trust the science.
That's right, exactly.
It's literally the opposite, isn't it? Don't trust these scientists.
Yeah, scapegoating, isn't it? Another thing that I picked up on was how people start to get ostracized just by being associated with medical people.
Again, it's a common theme, isn't it? Of them and us, and guilty by association, or even you're such a bad person.
Yeah.
You with that particular group over there, are you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You're dangerous. You might kill Granny.
Mm-hmm.
So,
that's right. Yeah.
Again, it's setting that up, isn't it? In V.
Yeah.
It's setting that up, the them and us, the division.
It is.
Which we've seen loads.
Oh yeah.
Throughout 2020, I've never seen it before.
Not on that scale. No. I haven't. No. I mean, you could argue that maybe like an extension of that would be the stuff that I've looked at a little bit with the, the sort of what do you call it? I suppose you call it like the woke nuffs that's going on in the world. That's been dividing and conquering people as well. So there's been a lot of it going on the last few years, hasn't there? So I think
it has. Yeah. It's like an indoctrination, isn't it? Of sorts. Again, creates them and us. And it's divide and conquer.
Yeah. And it's also that
tool.
Oh yeah, it is, because you've got people then looking around and like thinking, who can I trust?
Yeah.
If you can't, you're not even trusting your own family, and that's happens in V, and we've seen an outgrowth of that in the real world, haven't we? So it's
yeah. I mean, just to touch on that bit, Carl, because we had the snitching. People snitching. And you've got that one particular character in V who swore allegiance to them.
Daniel, he joins up with them, doesn't he?
Yeah, and we got that other woman as well, the elderly woman.
That's right. Yeah.
Who's
Donovan's
snitching.
mom.
Yeah,
she's his own mom.
Yeah. I mean, which is.
I know.
We've seen
it's difficult to talk
things.
about it, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. Yeah. To be honest, Carl, it's very. I find it hard to believe we got, in a way, we got to that situation. We allowed ourselves to get into that situation.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does bring it home when you watch V.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I've always had a sense that situation was going to happen at some point.
Yes.
But when it did happen,
hoped and prayed it never would. But
but the fact that it did happen is again, it does. It's not a nice feeling.
No.
It doesn't put you in much trust with the future type of thing.
Yeah. One of the things that I always felt, and I was quite lucky actually, because a lot of the people, even outside of our circle, I had some close friends and people like that who were they'd got their heads screwed on properly.
Yeah.
And they knew what was going on. And it wasn't just difficult for me, it was difficult for them as well to see things going on in their families. People had problems with work and things like that as well, in terms of their working relationships, colleagues, friends, things like that. Yeah. And I always felt that, I suppose maybe I was being a bit naive because of the type of things that we look into, that I always felt that there might probably be enough people who questioned things in the world, that there would be enough. I had a conversation with a friend of mine recently about it, and she says, I think the difference is when people are potentially feeling threatened for their life, or their loved ones threatened for their life because of the way it was portrayed. That was the changing point. It became something tangible then for them. And
like yourself, you probably knew where it was unfolding and what was going to happen and where they was taking the narrative and where it would lead to. So a bit like, for me, I was hoping that there'd be a few more people who would question, have the critical reasoning to question what we're being told. But and I think to some degree, as the more ridiculous things that we were being asked to do, I did see people start to question that. Then
that might have been the point. I think when it
dragged on a bit too long.
And
when they were saying, don't stand up and you can't go over there, and if you're sitting down, you're okay, and all that sort of stuff. I think people started to think this is a load of load of rubbish. This is
why something suddenly becomes not a problem at a certain time of the day. And then all of a sudden it was like 10 minutes beforehand and things like that. Those are the kinds of things that made people. I mean, obviously for people watching, it's very difficult to talk about this because of the way things are, especially on YouTube at the moment. But, so we're being a bit cryptic about it, but you know what
we're vague, aren't we?
Where we're coming from. So as an extension from that, what you were saying about people ratting people out, basically snitching on people, that happens, doesn't it? We have Daniel. He reports the fact that his own family are hiding the scientist's family in the pool house out in the garden and that,
Yes. So he was a fully fledged member with them, wasn't he? He was fully signed up. I mean, I got the impression he liked the power, didn't he? And he really had ambition to get on with them, didn't he?
Yeah.
Really being used by them.
Yeah. And I mean, it was obviously a metaphor for the youth movement in Germany during the Second World War and that. You could see that with the colour of the uniforms they were wearing as well and that kind of thing. But it was like he talked about how a local shopkeeper had given him that bottle of champagne and all that. And it's like champagne for breakfast, how classy and all this kind of thing, So you could see it was about, for him, it was about power, wealth, possessions, all that kind of thing, very blinkered. And
I mean, I did see, are we okay just mentioning about 2020? I did see elements of that when it was like, I'm a key worker. I'm a critical worker. I'm an essential worker.
I saw that myself because I work in the healthcare profession. So I saw it myself. Well,
I've got a lanyard. I can jump the queue. I can't stay home. I've got to go to work.
I mean, I have to be careful what I say, obviously.
Of course,
I saw people basically acting like they were saving the world, like they were one of the Avengers, and they were talking about things that other people I know had seen exactly the same things, myself included, as well as different things. And I'm thinking, how is it that you've seen exactly the same thing as another person, and yet your interpretation of it is so completely different? How is that? What's going on in your head? Is it just an ego thing, or is there some sort of cognitive dissonance? I don't know. It's just.
I mean, I think it can work. I think there was a lot of play towards the ego to sort of, if you want to call it, activate that element of people. Because it's that thing of once you put a high-vis jacket on someone, their psychology of changes and their physiology changes, and it does make them feel more important or power, or because we did see quite a lot of people.
I've seen that a lot in the job I do over the years.
I mean, you've seen it if you went into a garage and for example, and where's your mask? And they changed completely, and even people walking around, So it does, it did appeal to the ego, and I think power is a big thing of that, which is what happened with Danny in V, wasn't it? He enjoyed that.
The same with Mike Donovan's mom. The power, the prestige. She talks to her husband, don't she, about you want to get yourself signed up for that with the plant, power plant. Get your. Maybe prestigious and all that, I think was the word she used. And
so again, there's another element to that, isn't it, with V? So they're really, you can see that and happening, I think, in society, more so than ever. in 2020.
Yeah. Another area which is worth looking at as well, and again, we have to be careful about how we present these things in the real world, but
Don't we just
pulling a staged thing on the media as the visitors doing this. So I'll just read out that bit of dialogue. So John, the leader of the visitors, comes on the news. I must thank the leaders of each of your countries who have graciously turned over all their broadcasting facilities to avoid confusion in this crisis. I'm sad to say that there has been a carefully coordinated and quite violent attempt by the conspiracy of scientists to commandeer control of our facilities. And then you see all these pictures of buildings burning on the news and all that, these so-called attacks and that. And then he says, thousands have been wounded, and we're fearful there will be more attacks. The outbreak is so widespread and so dangerous that most civilian members of your government have asked us for protection. Your national leaders have suggested that a state of martial law will be helpful at this time. We will do our best to see you through it and maintain control.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, order, control, yeah. It's just classic, isn't it? It's just classic.
Yeah.
You know, everything we've sort of seen last over 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And by extension, things that happened 20 years ago as well, you know.
Well, yeah.
That stuff is, yeah.
It's again, it's. I mean.
Thousands of people have died, and more could die if this happens, and that kind of thing. It's
that narrative, isn't it?
Yeah.
Be a building, and you know, I was trying to think of it actually, Carl. When you mentioned that, it was like striking a chord with, you know, it's about bringing people together, isn't it?
Yeah.
Against the common enemy.
Yeah.
But it's actually inverted, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
And I do like that about V, that they show the other, you know, they show the resistance, the pushback against it. And there's no, I mean, in the days when these stories were told so much more simply on television than they are nowadays, you know, fictional stories as well, you know, it's very clear. There's no ambiguity. There's no sort of like, these good guys aren't really good guys. They're morally questionable. They're literally fighting for survival. They're fighting for the human race, you know, and there's no, you know, no one questions that. They just get on with it, don't they? It's
yeah. Obviously, it was more of an invisible enemy before, wasn't it?
Yeah,
you know, 3 years ago, and it's about getting that common cause and patriotism of, you know, people together, which I think we seen with an event in 2001, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You know, same sort of, on that sort of scale. People.
And you get the propaganda as well, with the like the posters going up in V, going up around the propaganda posters. We are your friends and all this kind of thing. And I kept thinking about things that were slapped up on bus shelters and that, in a few years back, you know, and your part and all this kind of thing. And I mean, that's an extension of the propaganda from World War II as well, isn't it? And things like that, you know.
We want you.
Wasn't
it? Yeah. You know, step up and do your bit.
Yeah.
Because that's what it was, wasn't it? You know, same as in V, you got to play your role.
Yeah. And they keep banging that drum in it. They say the clear and present danger still exists from the group of terrorists, they call them in it. At this point now, they're not conspiracy scientists anymore. You know, they brought about the need for martial law.
If you just don't stay home and do as you're told, then this is going to have to continue. It's all those over there who are not doing as they're told. We're going to have to keep it going.
One of the things and I think you'd already mentioned about this, but I just thought I'd mention it as well, was that the chap who was running the gardening company, you know, the truck. He gets them out,
yeah.
And he goes up to her window originally, doesn't he? And he says, "I can't work for you anymore. The other people that I work for, they don't like it." You know, so it's sort of passive ostracizing as well, isn't it? From you know, it's not even a case of you doing anything wrong anymore. It's who you're mixing with, who you're talking to. You know, it's And she says, because my husband is a scientist, and he says, well, they say that I can either work for you or work for them. Divide and conquer, isn't it? Same old story. Yeah.
That's a good psychology, you know, tool, isn't it? That they do, that they've used for, like, you know, as far back as we can remember.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
it's
yeah,
classic psychological
like you say,
warfare going back
back
through
in
the
the
ages,
wars.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The daughter gets beaten up at school because the dad's a dirty scientist or something like that. There's another
Yeah.
line in it. And the
Yes.
locals, they throw a brick through the window, don't they, when they're in the evening watching the
Yeah.
local gangs going round. The other one I wanted to bring to your attention, because I don't know what your thoughts on this one, right? So this is about the way the media portrays things. So
Yes.
Daniel's dad says, I'm so tired of seeing her face on the television, only seeing one side of the story. And he said, well, the truth is the truth. And he says, well, why not let somebody else say something? So there's like this, and the mum says, "And you got the newspapers as well," and he says, "Well, yeah, they're saying exactly the same thing."
It almost reminds me of a quote I seen the other day. I've been down the rabbit hole that many times. As soon as I hear that, well, it would be on the news, wouldn't it?
yeah,
Everybody would know about it. Deep
yeah,
despair.
yeah.
So it does throw that up, doesn't it?
Yeah,
that there was only giving one side of the
story
of the narrative and argument, against no question. You can't question anything.
Yeah.
But again, it does highlight that, doesn't it, about the unquestioning and the trust in media.
Yeah. The reason why I thought it'd be interesting to put that to you is because obviously, again, we've been careful how we've talked about things. We haven't used certain words and that, so we should be all right. How we get away with putting this out there. But you've put stuff out over the last several years on social media and things like that, and you've had accounts shut down, and it's happened to you quite a bit, hasn't it?
Oh God.
So it is that thing of what happens to people when they present an alternative narrative on something, which is why I thought that scene in V was interesting. It made me think of you. It's
right. Yeah. Well, like you say, I had my YouTube that really, without warning, was completely terminated, and the Google account. Which is quite rare at the time. That was in 2017. I did get the Google account back, but it showed the beginning of the level of censorship, because I think back that time they were allowing certain things on, but in particular the things that I was talking about or trying to expose was very, very touchy for them. And they didn't like it. So again, it's like you say, but I think it's the iron fist now, isn't it? It's just absolute. It's full on.
Yeah.
There's no holding back. They can just get off. They did it to quite a few round. 3 years ago, they just wiped them out. Didn't know they weren't allowed. Same like you say with Facebook, and just going back to that with the people. You put something out. You get a deluge of people just attacking you all over the shop. And you have to really, it does show you test the character with that.
It does.
But what the most annoying thing is, which in that situation is, you can present every evidence and facts. And now just say, that's your opinion.
No, it's evidence and facts.
And I'm like, well, no. Have you read this? But then they don't want to read. Send numerous links to people. They don't want to read it. So that was annoying. But it's like you say, the censorship in V. It's like you say, they don't allow the other side of the argument, do they? They've set the propaganda up against a particular section of society.
What worries me is how the online harms thing recently as well. The laws that they've been trying to pass on what they call extreme content and opinion and things like that. So it's branched out now into all kinds of areas, hasn't it? Way beyond all the stuff that happened in 2020 onwards. It's
I think that was perhaps 2020 was like the big step, wasn't it?
I think so, because it was certainly kicking off around about 2016 that online harms was being talked about. So that was, it's been carefully planned, and how can I put this, in a way, I
I don't know how you feel about it, but there's things being done which are playing into the hands to get that through, that legislation through.
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah,
bill.
yeah.
Certain events that,
Mm-hmm.
how can I put this, that been happened, but things have been allowed to happen to encourage the online safety bill, which will be quite devastating bill if it passes.
Oh, absolutely. People think it's bad enough now. It's gonna,
I mean, that it's quite frightening.
It is.
I mean, you won't have a voice at all.
No.
If that gets through, I don't think.
You literally will be in that world then of like V, where you the only thing you will hear anything different will be people talking face to face.
Yeah.
You know, anything online broadcast will pretty much be just one narrative and that's it. I mean, that sounds alarmist, but I think, I didn't think that could happen, but then I didn't think many things could have happened over the last few years, and they did. So I think this is plausible. I think the onus is on people to really, wherever they can, call this out, fight back against it. But it's what you've been doing. I'm proud of you for doing it, because you just,
thank you.
You just kept going at it, and sod what they think. I'll just, I'll just keep pointing these things out. And
it's yeah. I mean, it does get tiresome, as you know. You just plod on, and there's times you just want to give up and just. I'd like to think I've tried.
Yeah.
When I shuffle off back to source, I can look in that mirror and say, well, I did step up.
I did.
That's what I've come here to do. I've stepped up and I've done something that I'm not comfortable doing.
Yeah.
To speak out in 2020, I wasn't comfortable to do that on that scale.
Yeah.
And lost a lot of friends through it, and a lot of people I don't talk to. Luckily, not family.
Mm-hmm.
My family were very awake because things
like
I spoke about years ago.
Like you, I was very lucky. There was a few hiccups along the way, here and there with people close to me, but by and large, we got through the other side of it all, still being sort of pretty much on the same page. They don't, or some of them don't always agree with me on a lot of things, but I think where it matters, they, at least if nothing else, they've been respectful enough to certainly not judge me for it. I mean, that's the least you can ask of somebody, isn't it? You can't just sit there judging people for their,
No, and it's like you say there. Whatever happened to healthy debate, whatever happened to healthy, that you've got where your position is, and that's okay.
Yeah,
that changed a lot in 2020.
It did,
That wasn't the case. Yeah. It had a lot of attachments. Think you're selfish. Loads of labels. I could quite clearly see what was going on because of my own background. I've studied a part of psychology to do what I used to do.
Yeah,
for a living, and that it was quite clear to me on day one. Well, even before day one, what was going to happen.
Oh yeah,
and how it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And how they were using the NLP, all sorts of stuff, and nudging.
Yeah. Which,
if you don't mind me, I can say, and we can edit it out if you have to. But them psychologists acted unethically. There's no doubt about that. They broke their own ethical codes. They were part of them nudge units. And I've made my feelings quite public about that. Even to the point of ringing up their ethical bodies.
Yeah. Good for you.
To let them know that I know that was unethical.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's
well, they kind of
not nice.
They I don't know if it's by design or by default. I mean, sometimes they do know, sometimes they don't, and they're just swept along with it all. They go to this argument of, for the greater good and all this kind of thing, and that's just a.
But where do you define?
It's an excuse, as I did say, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, about psychological harm.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you mentioned about the book, State of Fear.
Yeah.
Psychological harm is inflicted. I do look at people who perhaps are still wearing covering. And I think to some degree that's changed their psychology from if you'd have seen them 3 or 4 years ago.
Absolutely.
You know, they are obviously walking around more frightened. For some, I can understand some of them because I'm quite a compassionate person. For example, somebody who might be autistic who...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And the quietness of it all and isolation.
Yeah.
I totally get that. But, but I know there's some who, like you say, there's some perhaps nefarious.
Yeah, I should add that caveat. What you're saying is absolutely right. Yeah, because there's some people who, it can't be helped. You know, it's the way that, you know, it's not their fault. But shall we dare to go down the rabbit hole with this one? Shall we talk about the reptilian thing? That's an interesting one.
It is.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that one? Because clearly in this, they are reptiles disguised as humans. They've got like a human skin covering, haven't they? And they wear like contacts in their eyes and that. What do you think about the whole thing in terms of our world?
So it's like I said, I'm on the fence with it, Brock. There's part of me that feels there's quite a lot of validity to that concept because of what I see with what we call human behaviour and also our origins of the R complex and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So there is that connection there, So I could quite, not unquestionably, but I could quite easily get this concept. And when I see people, I mean, you can call them psychopaths. But when you see people in power or in certain bloodlines of, call them blue bloods, it's almost like they don't know how to behave.
No.
They're very, very uneasy about it. And the empathy, or anything. And is that, and we hear all this, we've mentioned Mr. Ike. So it's
I mean, he's brought
something
it up
I could buy into quite easily, as and I do see, I mean, I'm under no illusion videos can be
absolutely
messed with in this day and age. But
you have to, I think the problem is that there's a lot of muddling. Mine is as well. Absolutely. There's a lot of muddling that goes on. And I think when you present it as just a basic concept, like in V, a human, a reptilian, a lizard person or whatever, disguised as a human, and you think, oh, you've watched V, but when you put it into like a real world context, and again, it opens itself up so much to people just making a mockery of it.
It's difficult, isn't it, Carl? Because
it's the problem,
we can't go and, like I've done in the past, I can go somewhere and verify something.
Yeah, you can.
Or speak to somebody involved. And you can get you can glean some information which can sway you or keep you sat on the vent. So it's difficult for us. And I think you'd probably be the same, I'm guessing. We're very wary of things, of psychological operations and stuff that they do run. Discredit or to push that that type of thinking. But I think as a concept, and I mean, I don't know if David Icke seen Teddy shapeshift, and the black eyes. I don't know that. I can only take that person's word for it, and But it's a tough one. I think he had a bit of hot water with that, didn't we, Jesse Ventura, when he confronted him about that, and it's not something you can easily prove.
No, that's the problem, isn't it?
That's the problem. And I think that's where it's convenient rabbit holes to go down for some, organisations, isn't it, that want to make us look. And
it's that chicken in the egg thing as well, isn't it? Because with V was broadcast well before David Icke even remotely got into this subject. I mean, he has said that he read like Eric von Daniken and stuff like that, and got a lot of, inspiration from things like that as well. So it's not that, and that stuff was before V.
Yeah.
So the idea of reptilianism has been there sort of in human history, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't know where, like you, I kind of sit on the fence with it.
Well,
I'm open to it, but
I mean, I think it's different. I mean, when you compare it to something like the Star Child skull,
that's a completely
that's more
different.
tangible.
Yeah, there's evidence.
There's evidence there. There's the DNA.
Yeah,
It's been carbon dated, hasn't it, and all that.
that's
and,
right.
and Lloyd Pipe, really good case for that
Absolutely.
type of
Yeah,
thing. Is like an alien thing. So, I mean, with this V and the alien sort of invasion, they've sort of portrayed the alien as shape, but not they've portrayed them as lizard people.
Yeah.
Who are covered with, dressed up as humans, so to speak.
Yeah.
Which is different to They Live, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Which is another good.
Oh yeah, I got
film,
the T-shirt on here.
Yeah. So it's interesting how they're coming at that on that concept of where this alien invasion's happening, but they're like lizard people. Now I don't necessarily think of aliens or ETs as lizard people.
No, isn't it interesting how? And people have said, it's to do with budgets, special effects, makeup, things like that. But isn't it interesting how quite often, not always, but quite often in science fiction, when you have aliens, they always come in as sort of like a form of, they're disguised, or they, like in Star Trek, they make them look more like humans generally.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. So it's not like, and even when they're out and out alien, like the Alien films, Ridley Scott and all that, and James Cameron and that, there's still an element of how they interact with humans. They impregnate the human through the throat and all that, and out the chest and all the rest of it. So it's rare that you get just an out and out alien. There's always sort of a muddling of it in some way.
In
these narratives in the films,
and they're always green.
And quite often,
As the other area is it's greys, isn't it?
Yeah, the greys is another one.
They've reinvented that, didn't they? To little green men.
Yeah.
Rather than little grey.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, interesting.
Yeah.
To do with that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's funny how they push this narrative, isn't it? The story of the alien invasion.
Yeah.
In a lot of.
And I think if you think about it, I mean, I might be wrong, but I think War of the Worlds was the first one.
Yeah.
On that, in that way, coming to the Earth with spaceships, like the mass invasion attack, wiping out everybody. Yeah. There might have been alien visitation before that. I'm pretty sure there was, but in terms of the out and out big invasion, War of the Worlds was I think it was the first one. H.G. Wells.
I think so. I don't recall anything pre that.
No.
I know you had that one, what Jim Marrs spoke about. I wouldn't say an invasion, but the evidence of, they said about a grave in Aurora, doing an alien body, in the 18 something, wasn't it? But no, I think War of the Worlds was probably the first, and they used to call them Martians then, wasn't it? Martians.
Yeah.
That's an interesting change of how they are.
It was a commonly used term. Yeah, it's weird that. Yeah.
It's quite different. I'm not sure I'll use that word too often. Martians.
It was. I think it was used a lot in the 50s, wasn't it? 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And that came off because it was used Martians in the 1938 War of the Worlds broadcast. So,
yes. Yeah.
And I think it was Martians was used in the H.G. Wells book as well.
Right.
So, but you're right. It did shift after that. It did shift after that. It became more sort of generic, didn't it?
Yeah.
Alien or the little green men was used a lot.
Yeah.
Of
course, then we obviously led on to ET, extraterrestrials and stuff. Yeah. Which I don't know if that fits more into around the lizard, with the. I don't know. I can't quite fathom that out yet. All the different types of the names. Thinking about it now. I mean, I think it's interesting in this. I'm quite interested because I'm doing like yourself, a lot of research into this and blue beam and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested in why they chose the formal introduction, obviously the United Nations in New York.
Yeah.
No, so things like that stand out to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like the analogy where the sunglasses sort of defines,
Yes.
isn't it? To protect the light, the bright light. And the other thing, which I don't think we mentioned, is about the food, humans being food.
Yeah.
Because we do hear of that, don't we? About to do with
yeah, that word that we
children
can't use.
going missing and things like that. And whether it's people being just completely vanishing and being abducted in the UFO field. So there's I think there's quite a lot in that. I mean, when you go back to it in 1985, I mean, I would not have been obviously as aware as I am now back then, But I think that's interesting how they put that in there, that were used for food.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there is an element about that.
What about as well, like if you're talking about energy as food? Because one of the shows that I'm always looking for people to talk about, but to talk to about it, but I don't very often come across people, is Twin Peaks. I don't know if you remember Twin Peaks.
Yes.
And these entities that come through from other dimensions, like you got the Red Room and all this kind of thing in it. That little dwarf that dances backwards. I don't know if you remember that from it. But one of the things that they do is like the evil entities in it, they feed on this stuff called like Garmin Boja, they call it, cream corn.
Right. Okay.
And and they say it's human suffering. They're eating human suffering. They feed on it like a vampirism sort of thing. And so I thought, in a way, it's kind of like that with V. I know they're actually saying we're actually using them as food.
Yeah.
But in a way, they traumatize them when they take them up to the ship, don't they? They come in, sweep away the entire town, take all the people in the town and that, and and there's like a trauma to it, isn't there?
Yes.
And I was thinking about, how they say like in the farm industry when they slaughter animals and that for food and stuff like that, there's better ways of killing the animal, because obviously if you traumatize the animal before it's it doesn't. And I don't know if you get where I'm coming from on that.
I do. Yes. Yeah. It does. Yeah. Ties into I think you're alluding to the I word.
Yes.
Yes, that we can't talk about.
Something you can't talk about,
and a certain search engine.
Yeah.
And so so I'm gonna have to use the word belief. Yeah, I tend to think there's a lot of validity, in that, and why people go missing.
Yeah.
Especially young people.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot more, perhaps, that we don't know. With that, but but just saying that, I was synchronistically again. I wasn't sleeping very good one night. Must have been about 7 years ago, and I just happened to wake up at the time, and I put the telly on when I had a telly then, and it come on I think it's like a BBC channel. Can't remember what channel it was. Right. Anyway, they were talking about how they were using blood to try and prolong and make people healthy and prolong life.
Yeah.
Which I thought was odd, because it's the opposite of what they really want,
Yeah.
But I was shocked that they were talking about that in a way of, well, we can use this blood to actually rejuvenate people. That's what I think there is something in that, especially about getting them into at a certain state before the ultimate terrible act happens,
absolutely. In the V narrative, it feels like there's a trauma element attached to it. I know it's never explicitly said in the story, but it does feel like, if you want to extend the analogy of our predator sometimes plays with its food before it eats it,
yes,
it feels like that. It feels
funny
like they're
enough,
almost tormenting them sometimes in V. It's like,
I think you're right about that. That never occurred to me until you've just brought that up, actually.
Because they come and they say we're a friend's piece and all that, and it's like it's a slow build.
I don't know. I don't know if you all like this. Some things really in the film, you can go away and you haven't watched it for ages, but some things just stay in
They
there
stick,
and never
don't they?
forget. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not until you just get that little trigger about the
yeah.
letter.
Let's mention that actually before we round things up. Your experience with Diana eating the gerbil,
Yes.
because things don't always stick as you remember them. So,
no, and it wasn't just me who said it. Actually, yeah.
Right. Okay.
It's somebody else, partner, and that. Yeah. So we rewatched V again, the whole lot over a couple of days, and obviously come to the it's a guinea pig, isn't it?
Yeah, I always said it was a
guinea pig or
gerbil, but
gerbil,
it's something like that.
Well, that's funny because I thought it was a gerbil the first time.
Right, okay.
And then I heard it was a guinea pig.
Yeah.
So, but when we watched that particular scene where she puts the gerbil in her mouth, I don't remember it being that, that bad.
Because it's like a lockjaw, isn't it? It's like,
comes out and goes in.
Yeah.
And I remember it looking more realistic. Like she literally swallowed a gerbil and the tail going in, and even the gerbil looked more realistic than what this one did on what we watched. And I thought that don't look right to how I remember it. It was a lot more convincing.
Strange though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I don't remember the jaw doing that either.
Wow.
It's like that. I can still picture where our old telly was years ago and watching it. And it was not like that for me.
I'm a big believer that these things happen sometimes where things, it's like a glitch in the matrix and something, I mean, some people call it the Mandela effect. I think it's a bit generic to call it that, but I think there's something to that phenomenon. There's been times where, like I say, I think I've said in the video with you, didn't I? That I had a personal experience in my own life, 2016, but it happens to me quite a lot when I watch things. And it's not my memory. I know it's not my memory. I mean, my memory's not brilliant, but isn't that shit? You know?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I'd like to consider that I've got a good memory. Yeah,
I know why a lot of people hold V up. Not just because. I mean, it's a powerful story. What we said, it's a cautionary tale, but it synchronizes with so many other areas as well, doesn't it? It really does.
It does.
Worth giving it. If you can get past the dodgy special effects in it,
I mean, did we just quickly mention? Do we mention the pregnancy with the alien baby?
We touched on it, but I don't think we got any. Go on then,
because that's an interesting one, isn't it? How they've done that too, which you do hear a lot of experiences.
Who
claim they've been abducted. They have like phantom pregnancies and the baby's gone and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite interesting how they brought that into V. Because it's something we do hear a lot about people who claim they've been abducted, and women have been pregnant or tested pregnant, and all of a sudden things have changed. So I thought that was an interesting element, really.
And one of the things as well was when what was his name? Brian was the visitor that impregnated Robin. That was it.
Yes.
And when they do the deed, she sets him up and says it's an experiment.
About that,
it's like a cross, it's not just something that they just want to do for kicks. It's an actual experiment. A crossbreeding experiment, that she's.
So it's more or less putting it there for you,
really. Yeah, it is. Yeah. It goes off the rails a bit in the final battle when she gives birth to the twins, that little green troll thing, and and then the Star Child, the daughter that saves them all at the end.
Yeah,
I just remember that in the follow up. It kind of got derailed a bit.
I think I did. Yeah.
But Ken Johnson wasn't really involved with it at that point. Then he was only really involved with the first one.
They had a bit of a fallout or something. Was it born?
I think he wrote the. Actually, that's a good point. Actually, for those people that are interested, let's just let me just quote, because people say what was his inspiration for. So let me just pull this up.
Oh, I've got that.
Ken Johnson. He says they burned the Reichstag, of course, and blamed it on people that could rally the cause. And I sort of used that, the idea of creating havoc and blaming it on someone else so that you can then go and dump on somebody else is something that that man from World War II mastered. And something I was anxious to have echo through this. My original screenplay had no aliens or anything like that in it. It was strictly a homegrown fascist takeover of the United States. Suddenly we were living in a different country. Suddenly we were in an occupation. Suddenly we were under martial law. I wrote this as a screenplay and I called it Storm Warnings. I was having dinner with Brandon Kartikoff, and he felt that the Americans might not get fascism.
Yeah.
Look, where did they go wrong there then?
Yeah.
I wanted to know if I could have it be a Soviet occupation. I didn't really believe that's either, so it became an alien invasion. And he said that back in the 1980s, I read a book called It Can't Happen Here by Sinclair Lewis. It's a great book, by the way. People read that. Yeah. Really, really good book. I was intrigued by the notion because I felt there was a great complacency amongst American people that no real sea change could ever take place in their life. Again, from your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah.
V was particularly intended on social political allegory right from the very beginning. It also commented on people like the George Morphagon character. I think that was Abraham's son, I think.
Yeah.
He wanted to just keep his hands over his eyes and pretend nothing was going on, even while his son was becoming a part of the Hitler Youth. Yeah. Corruption of power, played by David Packer in V. He was seduced by the power of the dark side, shall we say. So that was what inspired him. Towards the end of the miniseries, Abraham obviously gets taken on the mother. He doesn't come back. The son and his son and his daughter-in-law, they come back. Daniel's waiting for them. They said, "Where's Granddad?" And, he's gone. And they read out a letter, don't they, that he's left behind. And it's Abraham's letter. And he says, "We must fight this darkness that is threatening to engulf us. Each of us must be a ray of hope and do our part and join with the others till we become a blinding light, triumphant over darkness. Until that task is accomplished, life will have no meaning. More than anything else, you must remember your side you're on and fight for it."
Yeah. That's
really,
sums it up really well.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
got a good feel-good element about that.
Yeah. I always say this at the end of all these videos when I do them. Please, people, go out there and watch it. Go and check it out because it's worth it if you can get past the special effects, which are a bit cheesy nowadays by today's standards. But yeah, it's a really, really good story. It's worth taking the time to watch. And unless there's anything else you wanted to touch on, I'll just say thank you for joining me to talk about it because it's been really interesting.
Thanks for asking me to do it.
You're welcome,
we've been
mate.
meaning to do it for ages, haven't we, Carl?
And I'm glad that
we've finally done it.
Yeah, I'm glad we've gone off on a few little tangents as well because I'm always up for that. Just take it wherever it goes. But it all kind of goes back together again in the end. Such as the way of this stuff. It kind of all melds together. Mark Conlon blogspot.com on the blog and the YouTube channel. You've got lots of little snippets of videos on there as well, haven't you? From the past that people can check out and get an idea of all that kind of thing. It's really worth taking the time to look at, definitely. And I'll just say thank you again, mate. Really
Thanks, Carl.
It's been brilliant.
Appreciate it. I've enjoyed it.
Hopefully we'll do it again.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, you take care for now.
And you, all the best.
I'll see you again very, very soon. Bye-bye for now.